some winners and then we say let's go. So come on, it's time to watch the show. We're talking hardball, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw. We're talking hardball, over under on the hot dogs.
It's beautiful here where I am in Cleveland. I don't know about you, Wes. Where are you? Wes Reynolds, professional handicapper.
I am in sweltering Las Vegas. We're getting the heat a little bit early. It usually doesn't come till later in the month or right at the turn of August, but getting in the 110s. A lot of the 1-teens here starting up this week.
Nobody's got sympathy for you. You don't have to deal with the winter. So I know you're from Indiana, but well, you definitely have to deal with winter. But this is Betting Weekly Hardball, part of the Betting Weekly family. A part of Bet Rivers here. We're going to try to help you win some cash. Yesterday, neither of us were on. Doug went 2-0 in his picks, and he's been hot lately. And how are you feeling before we jump into the card individually here, Wes? How are you feeling about today's baseball card?
Yeah, a smaller card, of course, on Thursday. Yep. Thursday is usually a travel day. So we actually have more games than we normally would because of the doubleheader that's going on in Baltimore. But, you know, getting into that point, Adam, where we're about to hit the All-Star break here. So these are big series. I know they all count the same in the win-loss column, but these are big series this weekend, you know, to keep that momentum heading into the break or to find something for that second half of the season.
That's right. And especially with the trade deadline 3 weeks from today, teams will be buyers, sellers, could affect their odds of winning, and that's all coming up down the line. Let's jump right into it. And if you have a comment or a question, or you want to make your pick and you want us to give us our opinion, put it in the YouTube chat right there, and we will get to your comments coming up a little bit later. Let's begin with two games that are in action. There are 11 games total today involving 20 teams. As you mentioned, there is a doubleheader. Mets and Orioles rained out yesterday, playing today. And it's been a great game if you like pitching and defense. The Mets lead the Orioles 1-0. They are batting in the top of the eighth. They scored their only run back in the fifth inning on an RBI by Tyrone Taylor. David Peterson for the Mets has been sensational in this one. He's gone 7, and he could come out for the eighth. We'll see. I don't know if they have anybody warming up there, but he's only thrown 87 pitches. 4 hits, no walks, obviously no runs, and 6 strikeouts. Charlie Morton, who got off to a terrible start, looked finished, has been better lately, and he pitched well. 6 innings, 7 base runners, a run, and 4 Ks. They're on their first relief pitcher. So if nothing else, as of right now, unless this game goes many extra innings, Wes, it looks like the bullpen should be fairly intact for game 2, although the way it's going, looks like we could see Edwin Diaz in the 9th of game 1. So thoughts on this game and how it might affect any moves you might make in the second game?
Yeah, and you led me there, Adam, because that's what I'm looking at is for the second game. No starter that I'm seeing. I don't know if you see one announced yet for the Mets. Nope. It is Sugano right now for the O's, but yeah, you want to protect that bullpen. That's what you always kind of want to do in a doubleheader, especially in that first game. So looks like most of the arms are going to be able to go with Morton going 6, Peterson at least 7. They could maybe stretch him into the 8th. I think maybe he could be done for the day, but you know, not having to tax that bullpen so much. Second game, we're seeing a total. By the way, the total did get hit from 9 to 9.5. So the money came on that, but not maybe the smart money, at least as by the result as of now, 1-0 in the 8th inning, but 10.5, what I'm seeing most places for the second game total. And you wonder if there's a quick leash for the starters for Sugano, who's not a guy that really strikes out a lot of guys. So Sugano could have a short leash. I have no idea who's going for the Mets, or if maybe they just do a piecemeal bullpen type of deal, like go with a Blackburn or somebody like that. But that's exactly what I'm looking at for the second game. So my idea, not saying it would necessarily be a play because you got to see who the Mets are going to announce for a starter, would be maybe under recorded outs for Sugano. That would be something I would potentially look at because the bullpen is certainly going to be available for the most part for Baltimore in the second game.
So a couple of updates. There is no update, as you said, on the who's going to be pitching for the Mets in Game 2. I've been scouring the Mets beat reporters, and there has been no news on that yet. Jesse Winker, who just came off the IL for the Mets, got hurt in this game, and he left. I don't know if that really factors into anything for anybody, but he had to leave the game early. And so, that's the situation there. The Mets have a runner on first, 2 outs in the top of the 8th inning. We'll keep an eye on that game.
And by the way, I want to correct something I said. It won't be Blackburn because he's on the injured list, but it'll be like if they do a bullpen piecemeal, you would think like a Chris Davinsky, somebody like that might be a starter.
Yeah, it could be. The Mets, they called up, you get to use the 27th man in this situation. They did call up Austin Warren, who's been up and down between the majors and minors, more of a relief pitcher. And who knows, they could make another roster move for the second game of the doubleheader. It was, the second game starts at 5:00. The other game going on right now is the Cubs and the Twins. It's been a very interesting series so far. The Cubs came in playing well. The Twins came in playing not well, but the Twins have won both games in the series leading up to today. They beat them 8-1, I think it was, on Tuesday. Yesterday it was 4-2. Today the Cubs off to a good start. They lead 3-0 in the top of the 4th and threatening for more. They have runners at the corners with only 1 out. And anything going forward in this game, Chris Paddock is not going to be long for this game. He's at 64 pitches, and he's allowed 7 hits with 1 out in the 4th.
Yeah, Paddock was kind of, on the hotter side in terms of how he was pitching in early June. But you've seen a lot of 5 innings where that's all he's going. And he gets to maybe that top of that 3rd time in the order, and he really seems to struggle. But he's not long for this game. Colin Ray, solid to start right now. 3 innings, has walked 2 and has only struck out 1. But getting some contact, and that's what he can do. But Colin Ray, he can get hit kind of hard. If you look at if you get into the stats where it's like the high barrel or the hard contact rate, he's pretty high there. So if I were to do anything, maybe in an in game here, would we lean a little bit to the over, which now ticks up to 10.5 because the Cubs do get a run here in the top of the 4th. This did close 9.5. Did push 2 nights ago, did not go over last night. So this felt a little bit like an over game anyway, and I didn't bet it pre-flop and go ahead and do that. But I'd look a little toward it because I think maybe the Twins are going to get to Colin Ray at least a little bit, and certainly Paddock, very short outing, so you're going to see that bullpen get extra tax for the Twins.
Yeah, as you mentioned, as you were talking, Matt Shaw sacrificed fly to score Carson Kelly to make it now 4-0. I agree with you that the Twins will be able to get to Colin Ray at some point. One thing to note with the Twins, Byron Buxton left the game early yesterday with an injury, and he is not in the lineup today. So they're missing one of their potent bats, an injury-prone guy there. The Mets-Orioles game now heads to the bottom of the 8th, still 1-0. All right, let's jump into the games, West, that are not starting yet, including a game at 7:05 Eastern tonight between the Mariners and the Yankees. The Yankees obviously had been, before this series, had been playing terrible baseball. They'd lost 6 in a row, had a terrible record going on a month. They've won 3 straight. They have traditionally been great against the Mariners. Remember, for a while, every game was going under with the Yankees. Now they've gone over 10 straight games. However, they're facing the all-star Brian Wu today. Who would have guessed he'd been the best pitcher on the Mariners this year, but he has. And for the Yankees, Marcus Stroman, obviously, has been hurt most of the year, and he's been bad. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, if you look at Brian Wu, he has gone 6 innings in every single start this season. At least a bare minimum of 6 innings. So he is and he's not like a huge strikeout pitcher. He can strike you out. He does have some of that stuff, but he's just an efficient pitcher, Adam. And he's able to go deep in the games, and he's probably going to have to tonight because Logan Evans did not last long in last night's loss there in the Bronx. But I'm looking on the other side at Marcus Stroman. He's gone 5 in both of his starts back from the injured list, but looked a little shaky the second time around. Looked a little shaky against the Mets over the weekend. So I wonder how long, because the kid last night, Schlittler, actually had a very good outing for the Yankees last night and did go into the 6th. But so I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of a quick hook for Stroman. I have not bet this yet, but The goal, I think, for him at this point, even though, he's back from the injured list, but this is only his third start. Probably the goal for Aaron Boone, you would think, is okay. Let's get him 5 and see if we could just get him through it, and then maybe turn it over to the bullpen, because that's why you see Stroman, the recorded outs in a lot of places are heavily juiced to the over, but at 14.5. So that's obviously 4 2/3 innings, essentially. So if I got 15.5 and I could find that somewhere, you're probably going to have to lay a little bit of vig to the under. That's what I would certainly want to do, but I'm seeing mostly 14.5s in the market.
Nothing. What about the 9.5 run total? Are you interested in that at all?
Yeah. And both the games have gone over so far. So it's gonna be a pass for me. I think the market probably has it right based on how long Stroman is going to go, and Yankee Stadium is tough for road pitchers for a lot of them because of the short right porch and right field and whatnot. So sometimes that gets in pitchers' heads. I would think Brian Wu would be able to overcome that because he's gone 6 in every start, like I mentioned, but. This could be one where it's like, okay, I get a runner on, base, or I get 2 on, and then he pitches a little bit more cautious and kind of nibbles a little bit and doesn't throw like the strikes that he always does because he peppers the zone.
Yeah.
But, sometimes that gets in guys' heads. So that's what worries me a little bit about taking an under here. So I think the market probably has it right.
There's definitely something different about pitching at Yankee Stadium, even with the Yankees not playing that well before coming in. There's some guys, especially young pitchers, which he is, can be affected by that. So it's something to keep in mind. Sign up for the newsletter at bettingweeklystudios.com for weekly betting tips, soccer previews, tennis brackets, and breakdowns. All right, speaking of breakdowns, let's break down the next game on the list for us. The Guardians at the White Sox. Baseball surprises you sometimes. It certainly did the last 3 days. The Guardians, going into this week, had been playing as bad a baseball as any team in the league. Their offense had been as inept as Colorado or the White Sox. The Astros had been playing the best baseball of almost any team. And, of course, the Guardians go to Houston and sweep a 3-game series. They score 6 off Hunter Brown. They get a grand slam off Josh Hader. I mean, it's weird how that happens sometimes in baseball. Now they look to continue their 3 straight wins against the White Sox. Watch, after they just beat the Astros to break their slump, they'll lose to the White Sox tonight.
Yeah, what did they say? That's baseball, Susan. Where Houston sweeps the Dodgers in Chavez Ravine and then gets swept at home by Cleveland. Cleveland going to the White Sox. White Sox, this is the 20-year anniversary weekend. A lot of the guys back for the 2005 World Series championship. So, kind of you'll probably get bigger crowds certainly on the South side than you usually get on a nightly basis. But nothing here that's really standing out for me. Been a little bit of move to the White Sox here, who did finally end the Blue Jays streak yesterday. Nice outing for the White Sox, but. Yeah, I think that this price is probably right. Logan Allen has been, okay. 4.12 ERA, 4.76 on the xFIP, so a little bit worse. Jonathan Cannon, I think, has pitched a little bit better in his metrics. He's been kind of unlucky when you look at that batting average balls in play that I talked about at 319. Because, by the way, if you're ever looking at those numbers, the league average for a regular starting pitcher at batting average balls in play is about mid 290-ish is what it is. So if you're seeing above that, then there's been maybe some bad luck or even some bad pitching, and then if you see some of the really astonishingly low numbers in the 200s or even below that, that is very unsustainable, at least throughout the season. So that's something to keep in mind. But nothing here for me on the Guardians and the White Sox. I think it's priced about right.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on this as well. By the way, we have an update. Game 1. Orioles and Mets. How about this? So David Peterson, they left him in to start the 8th inning in a 1-0 game. He faced Colton Cowser, who got a ground ball single to left. They then pulled him out of the game, brought in their setup guy, Ryan Stanek. And what happens? The Orioles used Gunnar Henderson, who was on the bench for game 1, to pinch hit for Luis Vasquez. Obviously a big upgrade there. And Henderson just hit a 2-run homer. And the Orioles now lead the Mets 2-1. still batting in the bottom of the 8th with nobody out.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised actually they brought him back out to start the 8th, Peterson at 87. It's kind of that, that touch and go here where it's like a 50-50 proposition, but
Yeah.
gets touched up by Kowser, and then Stanek gives up the 2-run shot to Henderson. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised Carlos Mendoza elected to do that, but O's could be benefiting here, and bullpens for the most part, because Wolfram's ate a couple innings here for Baltimore. Closer going to come out, you would certainly think, for the Orioles in the 9th, but both teams did protect the bullpen, so that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at props or something like that for the second game. One other thing on Cleveland and the White Sox too.
Yeah.
There is some potential rain there. So if you're, be looking out on the forecast for some rain delays, because that'll affect you a little bit, especially on like pitcher props. Like I think there was that rain delay in game 1 of Seattle and the Yankees. I think that's an example where Will Warren, if you had his over strikeouts, he was kind of starting to figure it out, after a rough early go. And then the momentum just gets halted there when they bring you back out. And it depends on how long the delay is. Like if it's 20, 30 minutes, starters are coming back out, the guys that were pitching before, it gets over an hour. Then all of a sudden you've got shortened starts. So that's something to keep in mind when you're betting on pitcher props.
No doubt about it. Important note there. Twins go in order in the bottom of the 4th, so still 4-0 Cubs going to the 5th in that one. Folks, I want to remind you that just out this morning, Betting Weekly game bet match with Nigel and Sean Calvert previewing tomorrow's men's semifinal matches at Wimbledon. So make sure you check that out. If you're a tennis bettor, we got you covered here. All right, next game, Marlins at the Reds. The Marlins had a wild 11-game road winning streak, but it did come to an end last night as Sandy Alcantara, who had been a little better lately, struggled again last night. He lost. Reds win. And tonight it'll be Cal Quantrill and Nick Lodolo. Anything for you in this one?
Yeah, man, the Marlins, they have been red hot. Meanwhile, the Reds are kind of like sometimes what we could be as bettors, where you get in those little patterns where you're trading money. You win one, then you lose one, then you win one, and then you lose one, and that's kind of what the Reds have been doing with Nicholas Lodolo, obviously having returned from a little bit of an injury respite. Reds trying to even up the series here. Man, I can't really figure out what to do with this one, to be honest with you. Just looking at the price, Reds mid 160s would maybe slightly lean to the over, but I think I'm gonna stay out of this one because this Marlins team, look, they've been tough to go against. I know they got the nice win or Cincinnati got the nice win last night. Andrew Abbott continues to kind of pitch a little bit above what his metrics say he should be doing, but he's been pitching well. And sometimes you get those pitchers, Adam, that defy logic a little bit, where it's like, well, maybe they're not this good, but they just keep getting results. And if you keep fading them, Doug Kazarian makes this point where it's like, you only got to be wrong one time when you're like riding a streak or something, because if it loses, okay. But if you're trying to beat a streak or, fade a team, like, okay, this is where they're due to lose, or this is where this pitcher's due to pitch badly, you can be wrong on several occasions. So that's what a lot of bettors probably have been on Andrew Abbott this year, but no play for me on this one.
And to your point, like when if you want to be a smart bettor, and this game starts at 5:10 Eastern, you don't have to bet on every game. If you feel this desperation to bet on every game, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Bet what you feel, what you really think is going to win. Obviously, you never know for sure, but don't when you feel like you have to make a pick on every game. That's going to get you in the wrong place, I think.
Yeah, no question about it. So, absolutely be selective. It reminds me the first time, this was when I was in college, the first time I came to Vegas and I went to a sports book, and like, obviously it's your first time, you're excited, man. It's like, oh man, there's all these games on all these screens and you can bet on them. And it's like, and then you hit one or two. It's like, oh man, I got to get down on something the last one. And there was an older gentleman that was sitting just down from me, goes, there's always games tomorrow, kid.
Yeah.
Good
advice.
I never forgot that.
Yeah.
I never forgot that. And I try to keep that into practice, where it's like, you know what, there's something else that's going to happen here. So, sometimes quit while you're ahead. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to the next game we hope to get ahead with, the Rays and the Red Sox. Taj Bradley, Walker Buehler. Neither one's been great. Buehler's been particularly bad. But Boston overall has been good. They've won 6 in a row and 8 of their last 9. Are you going to ride this Red Sox streak tonight?
Yeah, Bueller.
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 Are we going to go over 5 innings, which he has not done since, by the way, June 11th
Yeah.
against Tampa Bay, where he did go 7. But yeah, he's been shaky, Adam. He had 3 1/3 at Seattle, 4 in the Big A, only 4 against Toronto. Did go 5 against the Nats last week. So, and they actually did bring him back out for the 6th, and he gave up like I think 2 or 3 straight base runners, and then couldn't make it. I think I actually had the under 15.5 outs that game, so got kind of fortunate. So yeah, Boston, they've got back home and got healthy against Colorado, and hit the tar out of the ball and get a lot of late runs. So man, that's one of your favorite parks, by the way. If you're playing an over and you think you're kind of out of it, it's like, oh man, I've got an over 9 and it's like 4-1 or 5-0. You will get big innings late
Oh, yeah.
sometimes there in Boston.
Yep.
I have a couple times this year, so that's something to keep in mind. Some of these places, so don't necessarily lose hope. Bueller 15.5 outs, heavily juiced to the under. That's probably where it should be. Todd Bradley, there's sometimes, Adam, where I think he has really good stuff.
Yep.
And there's sometimes where I think he is just so freaking hittable. And you've seen
Yeah.
that over the last couple of games. Gave up 8 and 5 earned at Baltimore, gave up 6, 3 earned last time at Minnesota. So I don't know about Bradley like the third time through the order against the Red Sox. Tampa Bay did cool a little bit from that hot streak where they went to Minnesota and they lost a couple games in extra innings. They did salvage something last night at Detroit, but they've cooled off a little bit from that hot end of May and into throughout the most of June. So nothing for me as of now. Maybe a small lean to the over, but that's it.
All right. I know you got something in the Diamondbacks Padres game, so let's talk about that one here. That game, that's a late game, 9:40 Eastern. Eduardo Rodriguez and Randy Vasquez. What's your play in this game?
Yeah, I do like the Snakes here to take 3 or 4 from the Padres. And in part, it's a fade of Randy Vasquez, who I think has kind of been a lucky pitcher this year. He's a pitch to contact, soft contact guy, so he is not a strikeout guy. 488, 4.88 over every 9 innings from the K to 9 ratio. Not very high, one of the lowest of any starting pitchers in the league. 379 on the ERA, respectable, but a 579 on the xFIP. This guy, against the Diamondbacks that can really, really get some contact going. They put up 8 last night against San Diego, took Dylan Cease deep, I believe, like 3 times. And, have scored, they went 6, 0, and then 8. So they've scored 14 runs in 3 games. This team's got the power, and looks like they've had, I think Corbin Carroll had missed a couple games. He's now back in the lineup. So this is a team that I think can really hit a soft contact guy. Arizona is a dangerous team to be that soft contact pitcher against, and I think Randy Vasquez in San Diego is going to find that out. So I will lay the money line with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I look at the National League West, and the 3 teams, San Francisco, San Diego, Arizona. How many of those are going to make the playoffs? I think it's only going to be one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure which one, because I think the Phillies and Mets are going to make the playoffs. Obviously, the Dodgers, and I personally think the Cubs and Brewers are going to both make it. So I think it's only, the top of the National League is so much better than the American League. Which team do you like the best overall? Arizona, San Diego, San Francisco?
I would probably say the Diamondbacks, actually.
Yeah.
San Francisco, I think, I know they made the Devers trade, but I kind of feel like they're coming back a little bit to earth, where they overachieved maybe at least a little bit. So that would be between San Diego and Arizona. San Diego can be a little bit inconsistent at the plate, and I think Arizona, they have less power outages, shall we say, at the plate, I think, than San Diego at times. So Arizona, 1 game under 500, they can get back to 500 tonight. They're still right in that like wild card race.
Right.
A big ass to chase down the Dodgers, but Arizona is the team I like the best in that West.
All right, let's get to the next game on the docket that I know you have interest in: the Nationals and the Cardinals. What say you on that one?
Yeah, and I did bet under 17.5. It's 16.5, and I would still recommend that. And I usually don't when you get movement on these pitcher props, because there's such a thin margin for error. But under 16.5 outs on Miles Michaelis. I watched a little bit of this game last night. Andre Palant gave up, I think, like 7 earned runs through 4, and they extended him, by the way. They made him eat an inning and pitch him into the 6th, and he didn't give up any more damage. But that told me, okay, the Cardinals are pretty available in the bullpen today. And we know Miles Michaelis, we saw he's prone to the home run, especially last week at Wrigley Field. But I think, a lot of the arms are available. Ryan Helsley, the closer, Maton, Steven Matz. Cardinals basically to finish the game use kind of their lower relievers there in the bullpen. So I think they're going to have a quick leash for Michaelis. This is 1-1 rubber match in the series, so St. Louis can take this series. So I think they're not going to be as wont to leave Miles Michaelis out there like they were with Andre Pallant last night, where the game was probably well in hand, being down 7-1.
Yeah. By the way, Michaelis in his last start against the Cubs gave up, I believe, 6 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Which is,
and still somehow went over his strikeouts, by the way, which were only at 3.5. But man, that is so frustrating where you feel like you handicap, and sometimes you'll have that with pitcher props where you feel like you handicap it right. The guy gets absolutely rocked and the crap kicked out of him. But now it's like, oh, the game's out of hand, so we need to eat an inning, and they leave him out there. So sometimes that can be frustrating.
Well, they left him. I mean, they left him out a long time in that game. I was watching that game, but. All right. The only other 2 games on the docket today, we'll give them to you real quick. You got the Braves and the A's, and Spencer Strider pitching against J.P. Sears, and then Corbin and Kachanowicz, Rangers Angels at 9:38 Eastern. Anything in either of those games? You got 2 bad teams and then 2 mediocre teams. It's weird to call the Braves bad, but they are.
They are, and I think that they've given up. I was thinking maybe about a month ago, okay, this team has too much talent. They're going to make at least a little bit of a run and at least give it the old college try, shall we say. They're done. 40-51. They're playing out the season here. Those games, by the way, have been overfest, and they're getting bet like they are tonight, that ballpark out in Sacramento. So that's kind of like maybe a little mini version of Coors out there in Sacramento. So certainly don't disagree with that. In the Rangers and Halos would lean a little bit actually with Patrick Corbin and the Texas Rangers here over the Angels. Angels 2-1 in the series, so Rangers trying to go for the split. Corbin's gone 6 in each of his last 2 outings, so he's been able to eat some innings and not getting rocked. Because we saw those Patrick Corbin starts in Washington, and then even earlier this year where it's like he's going like 4 1/3 and they can't even get him to 5. He's been doing that. So I think he could do that a little bit tonight. Coke, really, he's been kind of intermittent in terms of that. You always see his props are pretty low because he does walk a lot of guys and allow a lot of traffic. So small lean to the Rangers. If I get involved, I will have a piece of them tonight.
All right. Before we recap the picks for the day, still no update on the Mets pitcher for game 2, but give you quick updates on these games. The Orioles now up 3-1 on the Mets. Still batting bottom of the 8th. They have the bases loaded and 2 outs. Ryan Stanek, who's been a really good reliever for them, not good today, and he's going to be out of it for the second game. They won't have him for game 2. He threw 31 pitches and couldn't even get out of the inning. Walked 4 and gave up a hit and 2 runs so far. Looks like they did get out of the inning, I believe. Well, no, actually, no. They're still bases loaded. And Cubs Twins is all Cubs. They have a 6-0 lead in the top of the 5th, and the Cubs have the bases loaded and 1 out. So those are the updates. Let's get your recap of the games you like today, Wes.
Miles Michaelis under 16.5 recorded outs for the St. Louis Cardinals against Washington. And then Arizona Diamondbacks, I believe 121 is the current price at Bet Rivers. There's some 1-teens as well. So anywhere in that range, I think the Arizona Diamondbacks worth a small lay as a road favorite tonight.
All right, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks to Shane and Alex for producing today. Betting Weekly Fast Break is coming your way in about 30 minutes. For Wes, I'm Adam the Bull. We'll talk to you next time on Betting Weekly Hardball. See you, everybody.